Hello, everyone. Well, it's Friday, and strange how the world is turning. Friday used to have such a specific feel to it, and now, in the midst of all that's going on, it's different. And so, my heart goes out to all the folks who are on the front lines, helping people in hospitals, the healthcare professionals. Thank you so much for all that you're doing every single day, and thank you to everyone too who is honoring the quarantines and the time down, staying down, so we can minimize the impact of all that's going on. I promise to bring you a new cover every day. Today, our cover is Japanese. This is pretty cool in that if you hold the book, it feels like it reads backwards. So, you'd normally hold it this way and turn it open. But in truth, that's the back of the book, and this is the front, so it opens this way. And the text reads vertically instead of across. So kind of cool. I remember seeing it for the first time and be like, wait, did they print it backwards? Showing just how little I knew about Japanese language. So today we are going to read our chapter, and John has entered the cafe now and is trying to get himself settled in and sort of thinks he has a sense of what's going on, except that now he's going to have his world blown a little bit through a conversation with Casey. So, chapter 6. As Casey approached the order window, I saw for the first time that there was a man in the kitchen. He had a wooden serving spoon in one hand and was obviously the person in charge of cooking. When Casey reached the window, she said something to him. He looked out at me and saw I was looking in his direction. Then he smiled and waved. I waved back, feeling a little ridiculous. I don't make a habit of waving to cooks in cafes. Casey and the man talked for a few minutes, then she put my order onto the small circular ticket holder and walked back to my table. The man spun the holder until the ticket was in front of him, looked at it for a moment, and then took it back into the kitchen. I returned my focus to the back of the menu. As I reread the first question, "Why are you here?" Casey came back and sat in the booth across from me. "That's Mike," she said. "He owns this place and does all the cooking. He said he'll come out and meet you when he has a chance. I asked him about your order and he said it'll be a lot, but he thinks you can handle it." "That's some kind of service." She smiled. "We think so." "Going back to this," she said and pointed to the front of the menu, where it referred to asking the waitstaff. "It relates to the question you keep reading on the back of the menu." I wasn't sure how she knew I'd been reading the question, but I didn't reply. "You see," she said, "it's one thing to look at that question. It's another to change it." "What do you mean?" "It sounds simple, as if it would have no impact," she replied. "But if you modify just a few letters in that question, it changes things." I looked at her, confused. "Changes things? What types of things? Like I won't be able to eat here, or I'll have to order something different?" "No," she said, suddenly getting more serious. "Bigger changes." I definitely didn't follow where she was going with this, but she was obviously not kidding. "I'm not sure I understand." Casey pointed to the menu again. "If you change the question to no longer be something you ask someone else, but instead you change it to something you ask yourself, you'll no longer be the same person." I was stunned. No longer be the same person? What did that mean? Suddenly I had the sensation of being on the edge of a large cliff, and I wasn't sure if she was explaining to me that one step forward would bring immediate death or eternal happiness. "It's kind of like that," she said and smiled, "but not so drastic." Before I could ask how she knew what I was thinking, she continued. "Let me show you, without you having to take the step. Read the first question on the menu, but read it in the detached way you might glance at a sign as you walk past it." I briefly looked down at the menu. To my surprise, the question was no longer, "Why are you here?" It now read, "Why am I here?" As soon as I finished reading it, the question changed back to, "Why are you here?" What happened? I exclaimed. Did the menu just change? How did you do that? John, I'm not sure you're ready for the answer to that. Well, what do you mean? How did you do it? How did you make the menu change? By now, I was totally confused with what was going on, and not all that sure I wanted to stick around and figure it out. Casey recaptured my attention with a question. John, did you see what the text in the menu turned into? Sure, it was one thing when I read it the first time, and then it changed back to what it is now. Why? And how did that happen? Casey turned the menu over to the front and pointed to the bottom where the prior to ordering message was printed. It's like this, John, she began. The question that you saw, the one that was different, the one that said, why am I here? I interrupted. Yes, that one. It's not a question to be taken lightly. To glance at it is one thing, but when you go beyond glancing and actually see it, and then truly ask it of yourself, your world changes. I know that sounds drastic, and that's why we put the message on the front of the menu. All right, everyone. So as you can tell, John is entering the world of the cafe and trying to figure this out, and I love how just calm, cool, and collected Casey is in the midst of his massive confusion. So be well, be safe, be healthy, and I'll see you tomorrow.